houses are already falling apart by 1 o'clock. Sirens are not going off yet. There's already a catastrophe.
Yeah. And what we're hearing is that, it's not going to be as bad. And so you start to drop your guard. And right about 11:30 at night, that night, Milton wakes me up and he's like, get up. Do you hear that? Out the shutters and I see the fire hydrant and the water is almost at the top of the fire hydrant across the street.
Wow.
Which
This
means
is at
you're
11:30.
the power goes out.
Yeah.
And now
it's completely
the
after midnight
fear
when the power goes out.
of darkness, fast moving, high water is what we're all thinking. It's like, this is a bad situation and we got to go back and wake people up. I mean, I remember sitting in the truck and almost breaking out in tears because I was so cold, shivering. I was drenched, wet. He was soaked from just going out into the waters and trying to help people. And the feeling of helplessness.
There's one way in, one way out. Waialua is a one way in, one way out town.
You're responding. You're also in a state of panic because there's no overhead sirens going up and you're wondering, when is that going to kick in to wake the people up? Midnight. People are sleeping. They're
can't imagine.
dead
Nobody's
asleep.
getting their shoes on. Everyone's in their sleep clothes.
All the lights are off.
No sirens are out yet.
No, nothing.
There's no warning. Kapuna, everybody's sleeping.
Then I remember at one point standing at the bottom of Plantation Road, crying out to God and saying a prayer. And I said, oh Lord, please cover Waialua right now. Wake them from their sleep because you feel so helpless. And that was like my cry to God for help in that moment.
God put it, the community came together.
Absolutely, the community became first responders at every level. Oh, we are seeing guys on their boards, their surfboards.
Levi and his boys from Dillingham Ranch.
Lights off.
He was passing our house at 11:45.
11:45, he was mobilized.
With his front end loader,
Yeah.
just looking to rescue people. Thank God they had done that.
The two biggest takeaways from this disaster is that one, the dam did not break, and two, no one died.
Not just Waialua also, but even on the extreme west side where the highway's falling into the ocean.
Not just our voice and our testimony, but in addition to just being the hands and feet of Jesus. I remember standing out there with the 400 cases of water that we had blown through. The line did not stop. And I kept thinking, here I am, Lord, use me.
Welcome to another episode of ToolRoom Live. Today we are honored and blessed to have these guests. We have Hinano and Milton, husband and wife, that were affected in Waialua's Konalo storm. But to speak on them, Hinano is the owner of Hinano Interior. So she's an interior designer as well. And Milton is the VP of Hawaii Sound Systems and owner of SoundMen. And so we have entrepreneurs that live in Waialua that serve the Lord, and they were affected by this Konalo storm that we didn't see coming, that we didn't see the effects coming. And so today we would like to talk to them about their experience and learn from them because they were on the ground from the moment it happened. And so I think today's episode is going to shine a lot of light on behind the scenes of the Konalo storm in Waialua.
Yeah. And so you guys live in Waialua. How long have you guys lived there? You were born and raised there? Did you move there? I want to hear a little history on the connection of the community.
I actually grew up in Waialua.
Wow.
Was still living in the same house we're in. Moved away for a little while, but Hinano and I moved back with our family, with our son Pono. We moved back from Mainland to Waialua back in 2006. And our daughter Liliana was born in Waialua, grew up in Waialua in 2007. So we've been there since till today. We're still in Waialua. Yeah.
The house we live in was actually Milton's grandmother's house. And so his mom that lives with us still in the same house. She's 83 years old. And we both have, like he said, our kids call Waialua their home. They grew up there. And, my son went to Waialua High School. My daughter attended a year there. But we're very much a part of the Waialua community. Very small niche town, and everybody knows everybody. And we're right on the main road, so everybody knows where we live too.
They do.
So, from the very beginning, I would say Thursday night when we started, we had heard the news forecast saying, okay, another Kona low storm is coming. The first one passed through, and we had some flooding outside of our home already. And I was just, keeping track of it on Instagram, putting out some content as to what we're seeing on Farrington, which was a lot of water building up outside of our home, flooding across the street, just out of the ordinary, right? We've had 40 days of straight rain and had not seen flooding like this to this magnitude. So it was very interesting to see. And what we're hearing is that, it's not going to be as bad. And so you start to drop your guard about it. And even though we're seeing what we're seeing, we're like, okay, it's not supposed to be that bad. So we went to sleep that night knowing that a heavy storm was coming in. And right about 11:30 that night, Milton wakes me up and he's like, get up. Do you hear that?
Oh, you were up or?
No, I woke up because when it rains heavy, it floods in front of our house. The puddles, I should say.
Yeah, typical.
And I know what the sound sounds like when cars are going through the puddle.
Oh.
But this one sounded different. I woke up and it almost sounded like a boat coming in the harbor that woo with the water swishing on the hull.
That's interesting.
So I got up, I looked outside, and it was like looking down from the top of a ship. You're just covered in ocean, just covered in water.
So we're up on Poston Pier. So we're about 3 feet up from the actual ground and highway. And I look out the shutters and I see the fire hydrant, and the water is almost at the top of the fire hydrant across the street. Which
This
means
is at
you're
11:30.
This is about 11, between 11 and 11:30. Already. And so with the sound of the water, we see the rising tide. We head outside to see what's happening outside. And across the street from our house is the old Cane Hall Road. And that Cane Hall Road turned into a raging river. There was water coming down that road, which is across the street. But at the very top of Cane Hall Road, there's 2 reservoirs. One reservoir up there. And when it rains heavily, there used to be all these old plantation ditches that used to divert the water nicely and keep it within. The ditches have since been covered up. And so the water is now coming down, quite heavily, fast. And we immediately thought, there's that moment of what are we going to do, And I look outside and there's guys treading water. There's cars stuck in the water. I saw a Tesla across the street try to come through the deep water, and her car malfunctioned. So she's out there, and we're struggling to get my mother-in-law, who's 83 in the back house, get her out of her house because she's down on concrete grade, with a little 6-inch curb at her door. So once I saw the garage and the water was up to our car tires, we're like, oh my gosh, we got to get out of here.
And then how do you get out of there?
And then how do we get out? So we left behind 3 of our cars and took we have a Tundra. We said, pack everything into the Tundra, including our dogs. And let's get across the street. Funny thing is the high school is across the street, which is a shelter for emergencies. And they're actually just a little bit higher than us off the ground. But our first intuition was to get my mother-in-law to higher ground and then come back and get other people in the neighborhood. Because as we were leaving, you could finally see some of the neighbors waking up. Now, this is almost midnight. People are sleeping.
I can't imagine. Nobody's getting their shoes on. Everyone's in their sleep clothes.
All the lights are off. There's complete darkness.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah. So it's like street lights are off probably.
Not yet. Because the power then goes off, right? So right after we get to the high school, we try to get in and the gate is locked. So we call it in with another gentleman that was there, and they basically told us to cut the lock and let people in because now, slowly people are coming out of their homes. And so we get up there, and just as we park, a bunch of cars started to park. The power goes out.
Yeah.
And now
it's complete
the fear of darkness, fast moving, high water, is what we're all thinking is like, this is a bad situation and we got to go back and wake people up. And a lot of the guys that were gathered in the parking lot did exactly that. They said, we're going back. We got to go get people now. And it became a rescue mission for everybody that could, leave the kapuna behind in the parking lot, and the ones that could drive, swim, and help would go. And so there was a lot of boys that went, and they went back to the lady in the Tesla because her lights were flickering, like she needed help. She couldn't get her door open to get her out. And so you're responding, you're also in a state of panic because there's no overhead sirens going up, and you're wondering, when is that going to kick in to wake the people up, to get them out of bed, because half of my neighborhood is sleeping.
And I sleep through stuff like that.
Yeah,
I can't imagine a kapuna, somebody
sometimes
older.
the rain makes it's a serene sound too.
Yeah.
It's white noise. Yeah, it's white noise. You actually got a good night rest.
Yeah.
So timeline on this, what day is this?
So now we're entering into Friday, early morning hours of Friday. The shelter couldn't open because there's no electricity. So we hop back in our truck and we drive through the water up to the church across from our house because they're on higher ground. But our thinking was to stay close to home and watch and help people out from the road there.
This is morning, day, sun has already rose?
Oh, no.
Sun's not even up yet. These are wee morning hours. So everybody was active. We were in rescue mode from 11 that night, Thursday, till 4 or 5 the next morning. And
wow.
I mean, I remember sitting in the truck and almost breaking out in tears because I was so cold, shivering. I was drenched, wet. He was soaked from just going out into the waters and trying to help people. And the feeling of helplessness, that's what overcame us, was just utter helplessness. And I remember at one point standing at the bottom of Plantation Road, crying out to God and saying a prayer. And I said, oh Lord, please cover Waialua right now. Wake them from their sleep, because you feel so helpless. And that was like my cry to God for help in that moment.
What is that called? It's the one that, lights go out. There's one way in, one way out. Waialua is a one way in, one way out town.
Yeah.
And lights are out. It's midnight, early morning. It's Friday.
Yeah.
People are crashed, or it's Thursday into Friday.
Thursday
so people are getting
Friday.
ready for work. So they're deep sleepers probably. And I know that. So 11 o'clock, 11:30, you guys figure this out. You're probably at the school by 12 o'clock at 1. Everybody's going out, banging down. No sirens are out yet.
No, nothing.
There's no warning. Kapuna, everybody's sleeping.
Aside from your cell phone, there was cell phone warnings that were coming out on our cell phones, right?
Yep.
But
some people sleep with it on silence.
Emergency?
Yeah.
Not till 2 a.m.
Well, when Milton,
alerts,
you called, right? You called 911.
Yes, I called 911 at like 11:40. This is when we came out of the house and making our way, before we even headed out to the high school. And I asked the dispatcher if there's any plans for the high school shelter to open up anytime soon, because we got a lot of people coming up Franklin Highway just walking through water, and we need to go move to higher ground. And the dispatcher said, unfortunately, I don't see anything on our computer showing that the Red Cross is opening any shelters anytime soon. And then furthermore, she said that just now I guess the officials are being told to report to the EOC.
What is the EOC?
Emergency Operations Center. Yeah. So, at that point we said, well, I just would take things on our own hands. And that's where the guy before us had called 911, and they told him to bust the lock, like Hinano was saying, so we can get up to the higher ground at the gym.
They cannot activate until the EOC is activated, right?
EOC will activate the Red Cross and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Who runs the EOC? Bureaucracy.
That's a state.
State.
Yeah. So we have aunties, elderly. We had an aunt that is 93 years old, and we're getting calls from their son to go and get her. She's down on Kukea Circle. And so we jump in the truck and start to head to Kukea. And then we realize, oh my God, the water is as high as the side of our door, and we can't get through the water. So we call him back, and we're like, we can't get to Auntie. She's up on the second floor, but she uses a lift to get up and down the stairs. we got to call rescue now to go and get her. And so they did. They called rescue 911. By that time, the calls are flooding, right, with rescue calls. So I think she was like number 20 something in line to be rescued. We have another cousin that also had his parents up on Goodell Ave calling us to go and rescue them. So you kind of just, they're starting to hear and get calls from their parents inside Waialua, and now they're asking us to go help them and rescue them. So it was a lot of that going on for those first couple hours, is just trying to keep tabs with friends and family that you know of in the area. We have a lot of elderly in our area, as well as younger people. When we started to head down Farrington, a cop car pulled up, and he stopped immediately in his tracks, and he said, there's no way I'm going to make it through the water in front of your house. I said, yeah, that water is deep. Look at the Tesla. It's already underwater. I said, we got to go back out to go grab our auntie. And he said, no, you can't. There's a house that's blocking Otaki Bridge right now that's swept up on the bridge. And at that point, I knew, I was like, oh my God, this is
next level.
At what time did that house already sweep away?
We were trying to get to my aunt probably about 1 o'clock
in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay, so because timeline is super important for this.
We were just trying to get out at that time when the cops stopped us, and we had a conversation about what was going on. He said Otaki Bridge is closed and Waialua Beach Road is underwater, flooded. So now we're thinking, oh, there's no road out of Waialua. We're locked in, and it just. You start to kind of panic and think about, how are all these people going to get out? And where is higher ground at that point for them to get out of the flood? And how do we access the people that are on the other side that we got to get to our family? So it was a pretty nerve-wracking moments and just trying to figure out what would be the best next move. Right?
So houses are already falling apart by 1 o'clock. I just timeline. Yeah. Houses are falling apart by 1 o'clock. Like you said, it was already happening earlier. It just blocked the bridge by 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Sirens are not going off yet.
No.
So there's already a catastrophe.
Yeah.
There's damage severity at the highest level already.
Yeah.
And sirens aren't going off yet. But the community right now is going door to door. What are they doing?
Oh, we are seeing guys on their boards, their surfboards out there going to rescue people by board. We started seeing the loaders, the front end loaders,
Levi and his boys from Dillingham Ranch.
Lights off.
He was passing our house at 11:45.
11:45. He was mobilized.
With his front end loader, just looking to rescue people. Thank God they had done that,
and we actually, the drainages along Farrington Highway, our house is the first drain on Farrington Highway. That drain's been clogged for quite some time. So we already knew once that water starts backing up, it just backs up the entire system. And our neighbor couple from the first Konolo had called it in and said, hey, can you guys come out and clean the drain? And you talked to Auntie and...
Well, yeah, I mean, they came out. Our neighbor couple houses down the road said one of the trucks came out, cleaned what I call the second drain from our house, and she had told me that they came out. She knows the truck wasn't full, the tank, and she asked them, "Are you guys going to finish cleaning it out? Because it's still a lot of mud in there and water." And the guy told her that, well, it's almost the end of our workday and the storm is coming, so we have to leave now, without even finishing the job. You can see half of the drain pipe, which I haven't seen in a long time. But I guess all that mud came up because of the raging water. But that night, I don't have a video of it, but when I looked outside, it was like a raging, boiling pot of water just
pushing it, like you just saw it.
There's nowhere for it to go. Yeah.
And the rains throughout the night. So right about 4 o'clock in the morning, the rain started to settle down.
So it was raining this whole time?
Yeah, throughout the night, throughout the morning, early morning.
So you guys are already swimming to save people, and it's still pouring down rain. So you don't know when this is going to end in your minds.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only going to get worse.
And we're not.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. No, the rain Friday was worse than Thursday.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
It rained almost all day on Thursday.
It kept coming. And you're kind of waiting to hear sirens going off. You're waiting to see emergency vehicles.
So no sirens still
For us, we didn't hear it, Richie, till the next morning. And I heard from other people that there were sirens down on the elementary side that went off in the 4 o'clock in the morning. We ended up going back to the house. Once the water started to recede just a little bit so that we could get through, we went back to the house because we needed to grab necessities. I mean, we just grabbed bare minimum things. He needed medication and other things. And our church had called and said that they had opened up Inspire Mililani as a shelter. The electricity is out. They sleep with CPAP machines, so we need electricity around the clock. We tried to get our generator going so we could plug in our refrigerators. We have 2 on the property just to keep all the food that was there without really knowing how long this would go on for with the electricity. And so we set up that temporarily. We still wanted to get my mother-in-law because she's 83 years old. She's never seen anything like this. She wanted to get out of Waialua. And as much as Milton didn't want to leave, I told him, I said, I'm going to take mom to the church just so she's, at ease a little bit, get her to a safe place. When we got to the shelter the next morning, and we left about
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Yeah,
he did not want to leave the house.
Left at 3.
Makes sense. I mean, I would
a lot
feel
of people
this.
did it.
Yeah, it's like you kind of want to guard it,
protect your home, protect everything that's there. His brother, them lived behind us in the back, and they did not want to leave either. Wow. And so and also to keep eyes on our homes, because at that point we're being told, through social media that there's people out there looting already. I mean, we're still going through rescue. I mean, the next morning we saw the helicopters overhead doing actual rescues.
This was Saturday?
Friday.
This was Friday.
Friday.
Yeah.
Was that National Guard? National Guard was out, like active rescues happening. You're seeing all the damage come to light now. You're seeing all the roads flooded. And it, for me, it was like a big picture of a catastrophe that had just happened, and it's ongoing. They finally got the shelter open. There was about 250 people up there. And then we start hearing about the dam, right? The potential of the dam failure. And we were getting heads up texts on that from people that we knew that are familiar with the waterway systems.
So it's crazy because I want you to keep going on that. So just so that we understand timeline.
Yeah.
So this is Friday. Floods are already happening, and this is before the dam breaks.
Yeah.
Because this is a whole...
The dam
doesn't break. The dam doesn't break.
Yeah.
But this is before the
we're getting
big
warnings,
flood.
right? We're getting warnings that the levels are high. The levels are rising. We're at 87.
So
the
if
max
it
is
doesn't
90.
break, it can go over.
Spillover is what they call it. But nobody really knows what that looks like, right? So your thoughts on what does that mean that the dam is compromised, you start to think about, okay, is that going to be a rushing amount of water? When I saw the map that the EOC had put out, at first we were in the clear. We were clear of that, what do they call it?
Flood zone.
The flood zone. Then they sent out a second one with the map that covered all of our area, all the way down to Mokalia. And that's when I said, we need to go. We need to get out of here because this is not good. And there was no indication at that time that the dam wasn't going to fail.
Because I know that the dam was mentioned a lot.
Yeah.
I know that there was Dole owns it or whatnot. I know the dam was mentioned a lot. How much of an effect did the dam have, or that water levels rising have on Waialua?
It did not.
Okay.
So it did not overflow. It
Thank
did not.
God.
Yeah, thank God. But we were close, and it was too close for comfort, right? I think the two biggest takeaways from this disaster is that 1, the dam did not break, and 2, no one died. Through all of what was happening with the flooding and the damage. Those are the two biggest.
God answered your prayers and
God
all the
answered
prayers.
big time.
Because when you were saying what you were praying for, don't forget of Waialua. Like, be here.
Cover us.
Cover us. What happened as you see it on social media and you just talk to, like, what you're saying is God took the community and was like, you guys are here. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah. And there was 0 deaths. Yeah. And I think that is a beautiful thing. This is amazing. You have people on CPAP. You have kapunas that can't even get out of bed. How many people are crippled and bedridden? Yeah. And not one person died. Because I know that the levels got up to 6 feet in some homes. I know people woke up and stepped down with their neck. Like it was to the neck.
10 feet.
10, And the fact that without any real help from the state or emergency at the time, because they couldn't get through, so we'll give them that maybe. But God the community came together.
Absolutely. Absolutely, the community became first responders at every level. Not to say that we didn't have, emergency medical workers out there. They were there. Their fire station got flooded. The roads to and from the fire station were underwater. I mean, there was police trying to get through and get to people calling for help. They couldn't get through the high waters either. So if it wasn't for all of those...
It's like if you wanted to get in, you still couldn't.
You still couldn't. And if you wanted to get out like us, we still couldn't because boat roads were blocked. And so over at the high school, when the shelter got opened and then closed the next day, again, they were told to go to higher ground once we were getting warnings of the dam maybe being compromised. There was about 250 people. When we left Waialua, after the shelter had closed again, we headed to Mililani. There was only about 8 families at Mililani Inspire, one family of 12 that had lost their home in Otaki camp, and a couple other families, and kupuna from Waialua. They went over to Lelehua to go check out the shelter there because we figured, well, everybody from Waialua must have gone to Lelehua then. Lelehua only had about 20 families.
You're like, where is everybody?
So where did everybody go? I know when we came out of Waialua on Cam Highway, there was a lot of cars that lined Cam Highway, like we do when there's a tsunami, disaster or something like that. We'll just move to higher ground. But I think a lot of people went back home now that the water was starting to recede just a little. People didn't know where to go really at that point, that were told to leave the Waialua shelter. That's still a dangerous situation because, again, the dam is what was lingering over everyone's head at that moment. So that kind of uncertainty caused a lot of the panic, chaos. And then you've got rescuers on ground, these heavy equipment, machinery moving through, just trying to continue to get people, tons of livestock that needed to be rescued as well. And I remember being back home on Sunday afternoon because we had spent 2 nights at Inspire. We had gone back down on Saturday. And as soon as we got down there, the church was like, hey, because Waialua got a warning that the water was not safe to drink. So now we don't have electricity. We don't have water.
Changes the game.
And we're still in a flood.
And you got brown water.
We've got brown water. We've got tons of homes underwater.
When we say brown, can you guys articulate what that means?
Yeah.
Like it's not just mud.
Well, no. Now, so a lot of the homes, older homes in our area, plantation homes, we have cesspools. And so the cesspools also backed up. We had some areas where the cesspools fell in, like 10 feet down. Dang. And so now you're dealing with potential raw sewage in your water. You've got all these different factors.
Even like swimming around to help people, the water's got all this stuff in it.
Oh yeah. I was standing outside the house trying to get to a neighbor and holding onto a chain link fence and trying to go back into deep water. And I had catfish jumping over my feet. And I'm going, where the heck is the catfish coming from? Because the catfish could only have come from the reservoir up top that broke. That makes sense. Yeah, so it was a lot of different things happening all at once. And I think a lot of emotions were running high, and people just kind of you turn into survival mode. And what do we do to get people out of here, keep them alive? Where's all the people? Like I started identifying, okay, so-and-so is in a wheelchair. We got to go check on her, see if she can get out of her house because we know mobilizing is hard. And so there was a lot of that kind of response, I think, from the community.
And you said, just to highlight, Inspire Mililani opened up to, and
Thank
you named
God.
a couple, like, what are all those, like, kind of outside components? It sounds like God's people kind of moved in and said, hey, we're here to help. How can we help? Can you share a little more?
Yeah,
like you guys said, you lived there, or not lived there, stayed there for a night or two.
We stayed there for 2 nights. So the first night, Saturday night that we went, or Saturday when we went back into Waialua, we checked on our house. You know, the generator ran out of gas, whatever. We're like, okay, all of this is replaceable. We can come back to it. We got a call from the church, from Pastor Randy and his outreach team, and they were ready to go with bottles of water. So immediately Milton and I reached out. This is Inspire Mililani, their team. And this is still Saturday. So this is, I mean, I want to say they were one of the first boots on ground, and we opened a distribution at the high school and just started giving out. I think we went through 400 cases of water that afternoon, Saturday.
400 cases.
And then we had a truckload of boys, volunteers come down, and these guys were boots on ground, taking water bottle cases by foot into the water, into the community, to the kapuna houses where we knew they couldn't come out, right? And walked all of these cases of water to them. We had donations of snacks and food. And at that time, it was very limited, the amount of what we could distribute. Water was the biggest thing that people needed. And so it was more like just a quick response, you know, and that what you talked about in the beginning about how you just felt called, you got to go, you got to respond. Like, even though we had to evacuate for night shelter so that we could have machinery and such, we went back to get medicine, you know, medical supplies. But when we saw what we saw, knowing what we knew, and people you know, that God put something on their heart that said, we gotta get out there and serve our community and help these people, and just springing into action, I think, is what we saw, is a lot of people just motivated by that, what was put on their heart. And I think as human beings, when we see other people suffering, our initial reaction is always to try and help, right? And what can we do in little ways or big ways? I know that was mine and Milton's heart, was like, what can we do to help? What can we do? We were given a place to stay last night. We had electricity. We slept on the ground, chairs. We didn't care. We didn't care. It's like, we still have our home.
And there's
we
people
still
out there
have
who
our
didn't
home.
have anything at that point, you know? Yeah.
We saw people that lost everything.
And we're talking in the hundreds
of homes. And you think about their businesses, what they lost. You'd think about, we were really surprised that they didn't lose lives with what we saw. And we were running into friends that were, you know, we have a good friend who's a lifeguard. And he said that his mother and father had to be rescued, you know, and him not being able to respond to go and save them because he's trying to come in from Mililani. I mean, imagine that.
Yeah.
You are this is what you do for a living. And in this moment, you're not even able to rescue your own. It makes it extremely emotional and very difficult to just process all of what's happening around us. So
what are some things I keep seeing, all the devastation, not just Waialua also, but even on the extreme west side where the highway's falling into the ocean, right? Like, what are some things I keep thinking that we can better prepare ourselves, or better be prepared for something like this to happen? Like, you guys were not prepared in essence, and if you didn't have the Toyota, you couldn't have done anything, really, right?
Yeah, but I think what you said is important, is being prepared. Yeah. Right? And I think that, I will say it, the messaging that comes from our weather forecasting and other areas, I still feel that anytime that we're anticipating a storm, of any kind, there needs to be some sort of preparedness already in place, right? And we do have disaster plans for different areas of the islands, because it's going to impact the community in the area some way, somehow, right? And they can't be, the first responders will respond if they're able to, but I don't think we should downplay any storm. I think that's the wrong messaging. That, to me, it was what I heard. From my perspective, I heard the second Kona low wasn't going to be as bad. Yeah, that's what I heard.
That's what I heard too.
And so that was the wrong messaging. And then 2, you should already have the shelters on standby. I think those areas that are designated for places of shelter and safety, in anticipation for a storm coming, tsunami, hurricane, whatnot, you should already have those places standing by with people. They should be equipped with generator systems. They should have water stored at all times at these gymnasiums or wherever it is that they've allocated as a place of safety, right? And then have your volunteers have the proper CPR training and all of the life-saving tools that you're going to need, because you're probably going to end up in a situation where you become the first response center. So that should already be designated, along with who your volunteers, who your leaders are in the community that are going to respond first. If it can't be our state and city, government workers, whatnot, then let it be within the community that resides there. I mean, I saw ourselves in that position because we're right there next to the high school. Yep. If we got to cut the lock, break the door, we're going to do that to help our community people, right? So those types of action plans, I think the state and the city need to revisit for every single neighborhood. And then you have neighborhood boards that are comprised of just some of the best people that care about their communities. Get those guys involved and have an action plan waiting, because for every community where you have kapuna, there should be a roadmap of who's there, how old they are, and what the mobility status. We've got some on oxygen. We've got some that need dialysis, those type of life-saving things that we'd probably go there first to save them, because we know they're limited at getting access and help.
Yeah, that's good.
From that point, you're on Friday going to Saturday, to kind of get back to Wednesday. Like, can you give like a high level? What happened now from when the rain stopped, or how many more days was it? Am I missing? Is it more days of rain, or?
No, I mean, the rain at this point is off and on, right? But it's not that heavy downpour, high water flooding like we saw, but the grounds are saturated. There's backed up storm drains, there's backed up rivers, all of that still needs to be cleared. The debris is heavy at that point, and it's still a rescue mission for some people. So into Sunday, we're back home now. We decided to go back home and just deal with the electricity and water situation at home. We had 2 dogs with us as well. And so having to deal with both the animal, the elderly, us too, and then, so we get back on Sunday, and then we continue to do distribution. Inspire, like I said, mobilized quickly. There were other churches on ground. Now the community distribution is really becoming a thing. People are needing help, supplies, and such. And so as we're moving back into the week, Monday, Tuesday, we are hearing of groups from the outside. American Red Cross is responding. All Hands, All Love is responding. And that's when I got a text from the church that said, hey, we're sending All Hands, All Love, which is an agency that comes out during disasters from the U.S. mainland. They had several volunteers that had assembled on Oahu, and that came from the mainland that was going to help with mold remediation, because that's something that they specialized in. And so when I got that text, I was honestly, as a business owner, we're trying to balance the need for our business to survive.
Yeah. We still got to do work.
Yes, we still have to work, and yet you see your community suffering all around you, and it's like, I had to pivot. I was like, you know what? This is important. I acknowledge you're important, but I got to go. Like, I'm knee deep in mud with my community, and honestly, my heart is to go help them. So we both did it. I mean, we're just like, you just do. I think you just do that. And we, by Wednesday, when we got that text, I was at home working, And I saw the text from Pastor Drew saying that she was going to be down there. And I said, hey, do you need me to come check on, the group? Because I know she had to get to a wedding. And so I popped over because I'm right across the street from the high school. And that's when I saw the two of you out there. And to my surprise, because I had just met Sage at a collective event the month before. I've known you through the industry for quite some time, or known of, all things new and all of that. And so for me, it was a super powerful moment because what we saw throughout the week was people responding to the call for help. And a lot of it was community, but a lot of it was from the outside coming in. And for us to see that kind of response from people, it was like, you want them to be able to, you want to welcome people into your community that are willing to help, that come with that posture, right? And I knew that was the heart behind what was happening. There was a lot of things happening, right? The agencies were starting to set up at the Waialua Rec Center. We had Red Cross there. We had Salvation Army that had already set up. So the city was organizing that resource center. And so just trying to find the right plug-in for the different volunteers and agencies was just quickly how I felt like, okay, guys, this is great. You guys are here. Let's get you guys plugged in, some way, somehow, even without knowing really what the plan is. And I think even for that, for future planning of these types of disasters, there needs to be one set plan of who the response organizations will be, where they're going to be set up at. You oftentimes don't know during a disaster because it could be the gym got blown away, who knows? But already know your groups and who leads those groups as kind of a communication flow on things, and have people ready to go like you that come under, the builders that come under, whatever your specialties are where you want to help and volunteer. I don't know. I just saw a lot of chaos in trying to organize all of it. Although everyone's response was great, that's what was needed and necessary. There was a lot of it happening at different locations. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Sage would like to speak into that. The chaotic stuff you witnessed probably on Monday, Tuesday. But I think, thank you for sharing all that. I was actually getting anxiety and stress this whole time hearing all that because it's so real coming from you. And I think and I'm not even the one there. I'm just listening to you and feeling. So I can't imagine what you guys felt during all that. And just to see your strength right now speaks volumes to me. God gave me a word to encourage the Waialua community right now. When you said not one life was lost during this, it reminded me of Paul's mission. God gave Paul a mission, a GPS to go to Rome, and has a word for Rome. But the ship wrecked. But he gave him a promise in that not one soul will be lost and mission will be complete. And I feel like God's hand is all over you guys, drenched over you guys, and going to use you guys to be a voice for our islands. And it's happening right now as we speak. And there's a scripture right here that was like Acts 27. This is during the storm of the ship. It says, when neither sun nor stars appeared for many days, we finally gave up all hope of being saved. I could just imagine their feeling being there. And they went to Paul, and Paul said, not one life will be lost, but we will wreck. But we will be saved. And I feel like God's hand is evident in this situation. That's new information for me. I was interested on the data for the sake of lives, but to hear not one life was lost, hearing what I just heard.
It's
with
miraculous.
the 80-year-olds, the wheelchairs, the water up to their necks.
I think it's also important because that's such a good word that you brought up. To even talk about what happens when the captain and the other guys the people that could actually save the ship. Right? Because it's the people, the community came together. But imagine if everybody just left, like you said, we were gone, but where was everybody? Some stayed home. Some guys came on a track. You know what I mean? Like when Paul says that, he's like, but you can't leave either. They were trying to say, Paul, we'll get our lifeboats and get out of here. And he said, if you leave, you will not live. You actually have to stay on here to live. Even though it's wrecking. That's interesting you brought that up.
Powerful. Wow. Powerful.
Because they have to stay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and that was the feeling. Like, you did not want to leave anyone behind. You did not want to go if they couldn't be saved, right? And that's a very convicting feeling to have. But when you see the amount of damage and what was really happening, and like I said, we were spared. We were so lucky that our home was not destroyed. But to know that our neighbors are and that we're affected, and the amount of damage that was being done, it tore us up to drive through Waialua to watch it and see it. And how could you not get dirty and get out there and do something about it? I mean, I think, you know, not just our voice and our testimony, but in addition to just being the hands and feet of Jesus. I remember standing out there with the 400 cases of water that we had blown through. I mean, the line did not stop. And I kept thinking, oh, Lord, will there be more? Because my concern was that we would run out, right? And I literally told the volunteer next to me that I feel like Jesus with bread and fish, but we're going to feed 5,000. And we're going to get through all of them. And people were pulling up with trucks, volunteers from the churches, dropping off truckloads of water. I mean, it was such a beautiful thing to see and be a part of. I mean, that still, when I think about the beautifulness of people coming together, not holding back and just saying, I got to go, I got to help, I got to respond, and just seeing that kind of heart and love pour into our community, it's a beautiful thing to be a part of. And to make that call to action of just really, hey guys, let's just take care of one another during this time. Everybody's affected some way, somehow. Those guys were working around the clock on those tractors. Imagine the amount of exhaustion, right? You're basically working on adrenaline because you know you're saving lives, lives that matter, right? And that, to me, will always be a testament of our beautiful community, is seeing that in action.
The community came together so well. He's like, bro, and this was one of the most beautiful things I heard. He's like, I actually gained weight in the last 5 days. And I was like, how so? He's like, bro, we have so much good food. He's like, bro, God provided for us our fish and bread. And he gave it to us in plenty and abundance. He's like, I gained weight. Bro, I gained weight, and that was like the most joy I seen from him. But what I also heard from that was the community's coming together, but you know what they do not have? He's like, they don't have phase 2 and phase 3. He's like, so much people are not going to be able to rebuild. So much people are not going to be able to, they don't even know that there's a silent killer. They don't know that there's a silent killer, and they don't know that mold is going to possibly kill them in their home. And yes, they don't want to leave because they have nowhere else to go. But at that moment, it was, oh, it's not about digging trenches. It's about rebuilding. And that is where I believe God has put us into a position to then go on Wednesday, go on Thursday, and then we meet you. And then from that moment on, I want to talk about that briefly.
But then just seeing you both on the city and county's town hall meeting, I was like, oh, I want to hear the community. And I was like, wow, you know, the community's like, that was a very vibrant discussion. But having you guys kind of at the tail end to kind of bring the voice and leadership and God tone was timely. And watching you guys step up and speak, even you, was like, and I was like, oh my gosh, what timing, because you had what happened first, and you guys, which is, there's pain. And people don't know how to respond to pain. If I'm walking and you pinch me, I might slap you on accident. Just because that's my response to pain. I'm not aware of the pain, and so the response is valid. You know, and there's a posture to that. Like, if I were to accidentally smack you, you got to be able to say, I know you didn't want to smack me, but I did pinch you. Without you knowing, you know, so all's forgiven, you know, kind of deal. But then to see you guys come after and kind of settle. But I want to give you the point from there when I seen you, and then from there, leadership. Just kind of give us the chronological effects up to that.
Yeah, so I think by Thursday, a lot of what my mind was processing, right? So my background, I am an interior designer, a contractor. So oftentimes I'm calling the shots, and I better have answers for customers and things for people that want stuff done, right? But we know there's processes. And I know the news did an interview with me, and I said, things are going to be slow, but with all due respect, all these agencies have processes. So there was a struggle between that, knowing what systematically we've done in the past with Lahaina, our experience. I'm a big part of the Building Industry Association. My role currently with them is their delegate for the state of Hawaii. So we bridge our local chapter with our national chapter in Washington, D.C., which is actually a large federation of builders, vendors, and other things. In addition to that, we started the Professional Women in Building, and I started that when I was president for the BIA in 2023. And so now you have this network of women that are in the industry, and you're a voice. What we do a lot over on Capitol Hill is we advocate. We advocate for builders, for the things that we do within our industry. And we know that our voice carries weight, right? Especially when it's power in numbers and you're speaking for the greater cause and community that we speak for. So Tuesday night we knew our neighborhood board meeting, that the mayor would be there with his team calling everyone together. And Milton and I have never attended our neighborhood boards. We've kind of relied on the people that we've really relied on. But being in this situation, it was different. We wanted to go. We wanted to feel the outcry, the need, see the people that are responding and thank them, right? That was our initial posture going into the meeting. When we heard and saw what we had heard and saw, I remember telling him in the car, I'm not going to say anything. And for those who know me, like I always have something to say, but, knowing my audience. And so in response to the mayor, leadership is a hard position sometimes, right? But I would say this is that your most important job as a leader is to serve others. And I think when you come with that kind of posture and you step into a community that's just been traumatized, that's the position you take. You come humbly, you come appreciative for what was happening, and you come with a heart that's really just there to hear your people, thank them. Even though you're in the right or the wrong, it doesn't matter. At this point, we need you to just come with a heart full of compassion for what's happening with our people at that current state. So when he asked the people, what would you have done? There was an immediate reaction, because now you're talking to people who have been boots on ground, exhausted.
2 nights
exhausted,
swimming.
And not seeing anyone else from the city responding the way they have responded and carrying that weight. I mean, come on. That was probably not the question I would have asked. And I can't say that I'm not in that position, but what I will say is it prompted me. And I looked at my husband and I said, now I'm going to say something, because now this is our opportunity to tell the mayor what we saw and what we felt, and to be in agreement with our community that, hey, what you guys are feeling is what we felt too, and what we're seeing. And we are thankful for you. We are thankful for the brothers and sisters that were out there doing what they do best, serving their community, right? And so that's why we stood up and felt led. We really felt God led us to be able to speak and say what we needed to say. So still knowing that my, heart is with the recovery part and getting these people back into their homes, getting it rebuilt. I was involved with what happened on Lahaina through other agencies, and I knew the process of FEMA, the state, all the different parts that this is going to play. And so I'm seeing it from that 30,000 foot elevation too at times, and pulling myself out of the trenches and trying to remember where you fall in this process and where really what I was trying to do when you guys showed up is where would be our best use of our leaders stepping in and wanting to help, right? Our leaders are the ones serving, coming with the right hearts. And then whose leadership are we going to fall under? One thing that I saw Brenton Ava do, which is why I responded, pretty quickly to his leadership, was that he didn't wait. He got things done. And that's kind of Brenton is very action oriented, Senator Awa. And I love that. I love that. To whatever extent he has to deal with, all of that, he's responding to the need of the community when it's happening. And that's important to our people. It's important to me. We had gas trucks on ground filling up fuel so that cars could get fueled up, machinery could get fueled up, and people could continue to do what they needed to do in that time. So that was important. I reached out to Senator Ava's office because he put out a call to action for kauhale. And kauhale, as we know, and here in Hawaii, it's a term that's been used for smaller homes that we use as a type of interim housing. Sometimes it transitions into long-term housing, short-term housing. And as he made that call to action, I felt led to respond again and say, hey, Brenton, let our industry come aside. We've got an entire federation. In the past, the federation donated thousands of dollars to the Lahaina Recovery, the foundation, which is part of our Hawaii Builders Industry Foundation. I sit on that board as well. And so we give back to the communities through the rebuild process. And so just understanding where, our stakeholders are and being able to equip our leaders with that type of resources, systems that are in place to help streamline all of the I call them roadblocks. Sometimes, I was already, my mindset was really after the proclamation, the governor's proclamation, to get building permits. I'm already thinking we need to move and mobilize these guys. So I think that day when you guys showed up, I said, hey, let's go to the resource center where the city's at. We immediately went to Dawn Apuna of the DPP and talked to Dawn. And I my first question to her was, Dawn, how quickly can you initiate an emergency proclamation so that we can get people what they need to get their buildings redone? And she said, it'll come under an expedited process once the proclamation is done. And so for a lot of people, may not know. It's not that they don't understand. They may not know that those processes exist during disasters like this, and that there is help that can come. So FEMA, the Federal Emergency Agency, is there. We also have HAEMA, which is our state, our Hawaii emergency response. And those guys can help with also short-term housing, interim housing, and such. But there's other agencies out there that all play into this, big picture of when we talk rebuild. Whenever we say rebuild, in my mind, it's a process. It's going to take some time, because what happened with Lahaina, there's always a gap, right? And the question always comes down to is who's going to fill that gap. If it's not the federal government, for those who are not insured, underinsured and such, then it becomes the nonprofits, the private agencies, and other forms of people. Usually they're relying heavily on our industry. So we have a lot of services, products that we offer during this time to really support the homeowners, right? Because they're the ones that need to be back in their homes. So a lot of that effort, I felt, Brenton is a leader, right? He's our senator. So just having conversations with his office and asking him to have a meeting with us is really how that all kind of came to fruition. And, because you guys are part of the industry, you understand the systematic processes. I thought, okay, what a perfect opportunity for us, along with another gentleman that was invited to attend a meeting and respond to Brenton's call for kauhale. And that's how we started, getting involved from that perspective.
Yeah, a lot has evolved since then. I mean, DPP, Dawn, has been opening doors with conversations, thinking of the future. And I think we've had conversations. And I feel like from the victim's perspective, and I was sharing with you guys, being in 2 house fires growing up, one of them when I was older and being displaced, and the only thing that's going through your mind is A and Z.
Yeah.
A is get out, be safe.
Yeah.
But then Z, how am I getting back in?
Yeah.
We never think about like the process, the insurance, the getting money, and gap. What is that? You know, we don't think that. We just think Z. Okay, we're homeless. Now what?
Yeah.
You know, I remember when I got, like, when we had the second house fire, blessed, one of my mother's friends who was in the theater had a place for us, a temporary stay. We're able to stay there rent free for some months. But then what?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Then what?
Yeah.
It's like, what do you do from? We just lost everything. We didn't have insurance as well. What do we do next? And a lot of these homes don't have flood insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Because they weren't even in flood zones.
Right.
So the way I understand it, if you're not, just to have flood insurance has a premium, but if you're in a flood zone, they lower that with some kind of cut to get, because you're kind of forced to have flood insurance, so you get it. But if you're going to ask me to pay for flood insurance and I'm not in a flood zone, I don't have to pay for it. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to pay for it.
That's right.
That's what I need, to pay my bills in a very high expensive state as it is.
Yeah.
And now here are majority of these homes, and what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're not even insured on flood insurance.
Yeah.
So what's happening when you say gap? What does that mean? It's like, you don't want to turn down the FEMAs, the Red Cross. You need every penny at this point. If they're going to give 40 grand, it's not everything, but I'm going to take 40 grand.
Yeah.
But then what is the actual gap of what I need to rebuild? And I think that's what I've noticed and I've learned is the need right now is, how do we communicate what is that gap so people know how to help, not overhelp, not underhelp.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with overhelping, but when you have a whole bunch of cup to fill, you want to fill every cup of what they need and not just spend all your resources on these 3 cups when there's 17 over your hurting. So how do you spread the gap? You need to know the gap. And so that's what I feel is being worked really hard behind the scenes, is being able to communicate that, but also don't turn down the resources if the resources are there, trying to find every resource we can, delegate them in systems. Can everybody be helped? Because we're not one fire. We're talking about victims of hundreds is what the numbers I was hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. So what they're doing on ground, right? So Dawn and her group is organizing, the city is organizing.
So when you say Dawn, that's City and County, Dawn Apuna,
she's
Director
of DPP, Department of Planning Permitting, and she's kind of spearheading the efforts to bring together a rebuild event. And so the rebuild event is really to help educate the community on what those processes look like. And so a lot of them, like you said, you're just looking at it from point A to Z. Just get me back in my home, get the drywall out that's been damaged, put the new drywall in, and let's get this over with. Let's get back to life, right? Okay, you can do it that way. That's what a lot of people are doing already. They're not waiting for anybody. They're just going about what they feel is most important, and they're going to do it that way. I will say that for the ones that are going to follow the process, yes, FEMA does not cover the entire cost, right? Yeah. And as we saw with Lahaina, a lot of those homes were underinsured, so they didn't even qualify for any kind of federal help. So part of the governor's report to Washington to get us funding is to help with that federal government money that will cover a lot of the damages, not just in Waialua, in all areas with anything flood related. But in the meantime, Dawn and her team is doing the damage assessments, right? Going house by house to figure out what the composition is really of the homes and what's the immediate needs. Those types of data that we need as builders, as remodelers, as, just industry support is important to us. Is figuring out, okay, what is the need? Who's at need, what each address location looks like, so that we can come alongside and help. That's how I feel like our associations and what we do is important to this process. And so bringing together all the right people and resources to respond to the greater good, right? Because there's over 1,000 homes affected. That's a lot. Yes, we can have drywall delivered and, all these things happening. And people are really just responding, again, to need. Appliances being dropped off. Our washer and dryer didn't work from the waters in our garage, So we were at need at one point that we're like, okay,
it's
we
crazy that little need changes your world.
Your whole world. And think about the dollars. Like I tell them, I said, we lost about $2,000 in groceries because we have 2 systems. washer dryer, if that didn't come back to life, that would have been a couple more $1,000. I mean, that's an easy $5,000 right off the top.
Yeah, that's what's crazy is like when I look at some of these federal fundings, it covers like a lot of the intangibles.
Yes.
You can't even measure, not even counting the tangible disaster parts.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like the out of work. Because you're saying all this stuff, you're not working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's just so many intangible measurements of loss that happen throughout a process like this.
Look at the businesses suffering out there, right? And I would say suffering only because there's so much lost dollars. Our state is so dependent on tourism, right? That is our number one go-to. But as we saw during the pandemic is when tourism shut down, construction was number 2. We're right up there. And so those are the industries that really keep Hawaii, the small engines, the small businesses, right, behind all of this. So we want to keep them healthy and keep that going and get the people out back to the North Shore to support those businesses and support our tourism industry, because it is a vital part of our businesses.
As we get towards the tail end of this, I do want to speak on how important, because what you were sharing is this gap, right? We're going to get some help maybe, but we're also in line on the maybe too, right? And so with that being said, it's going to take still a community.
Yes.
Right. And the good news is that we are working together on trying to find solutions and acting immediately. And if we can't work with the state, it's okay. Yeah. Because if we can I think what would be nice is if we can if you could speak on what it is what will it take for the community to come together, the entrepreneurs, the contractors, the businesses, the nonprofits, the guys like us, the little guys. But the little engine could, and the little guys because the little guys is what saved.
Like how he said that.
The little guys is what saved Waialua.
Yes,
God used the little guys to save Waialua, and He continues to. So, like Dawn she's doing her best, right? Brenton is doing his best. Yeah. Let's say the state and the city is doing their best. We don't want to downplay anybody's efforts. Right. However, we know that because of processes, there is a cut. There is a point where there is going to be this bottleneck that they cannot go through. And that at that point is the gap. And that gap that baton needs to be taken up by somebody or a group, a hui. And I truly believe, and I'll say this over and over, I truly believe, pun intended, a rising tide floats all boats. And we need to be together so no one sinks. And so I would love for you to share, just as we end off, Hinano and Milton, you guys are in the muck, literally. You guys are living it. You have God, our Savior, in you, through you, giving you the strength that you need to do whatever He wills. Yeah. And so with that being said, and what I just said, what we all just said, what do we need? Yeah. And what people do we need to hui up together instead of all these chiefs and not enough Indian? We don't need that. We need a hui on one focused path. Can you share on that?
Yeah, that's a tough question, right? Because we see the reality of it. But what I tend to look at with that question is what we saw recently in Waialua, with the different businesses that rose up. The distillery coming to the aid of an entire community, opening his business doors, shutting down his business for days after day, just so he could be the hub, right? Community foundations, Lahui coming in, and all these different nonprofit agencies that really have come to the aid of a community. And you see all of the tangibles, the distribution. I mean, we had so much, like the pastor said, he put on weight. We had people, hot meals. I mean, there's agencies locally, nonprofits, those types of businesses that will all come together. But I think you're right. I think it's just the community and that need and that cry for help, right? And yes, you have your leaders that will rise up, even within those times, that will open up in their businesses and help. I think for us, we also needed to identify what is our best way, our role, right, in all of this. And for me, I'll share honestly, Sage, every day I was praying and asking God, and I'm always careful when I pray this because I just know what my God is going to do because he's so powerful. I always say, here I am, Lord, use me. And that's a powerful prayer. And you all know what comes with that. It's a ton of responsibility because you're not just responding to man's call. You're asking God Almighty, creator of all of this, where is it that you want me to position? Is it today that I'm a prayer warrior and all I'm doing is on my knees and praying for my community? Or is today the day that I rise up as Esther and become a voice for this community? And at the same time, coinciding with this flood, my women's Bible study group, we're studying the women of the Bible, and we're studying all the different women, you know, and I literally had sisters text me and say, this is your Esther moment. Like, you got to say something, right? And it takes, I go back to Joshua 1:9, to be strong and courageous. The Lord is with you, right? Wherever you go, be strong and courageous. And so to really take position in response to what God is calling you to do, it's not just action oriented, hey, go do that, blah, blah, just because, right? As a believer, our position is, Lord, what do you want me to do according to your will? What is it that you've willed me to do and be? That's different. That's a different prayer. And sometimes it means you step back and you let others go before you and you let them lead. You let them say the hard things, but you come aside, you get under their leadership. Whatever that looks like, you get behind your spouse, your children, your family, you hold them together because now those families become a unit of the larger body of our community, and we grow healthy communities that way from the inside of our homes out. And so really that's what we're looking at is, do we have healthy homes? Do we have healthy marriages? The people that run these households and businesses, are they healthy? Because then they'll contribute into the community better and become better business owners, better stewards of what God gives them. And that's all Milton and I want to be. It's just good stewards of what God has given us. And that we pray that prayer, Lord, here I am, use me. How can we help? And go there first, I would say. I don't know if that answers your question entirely, but that's my posture.
That is the only answer. I think that is the only answer.
I think that was the boom moment.
That was a boom moment. Yeah.
That was boom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is the
Jesus.
only answer is, God, what is your will? Let it be done.
Amen.
And how can I go?
Amen.
Use me.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, that is the only answer I think we can give, is not my will, but your will be done.
Amen.
And so with that being said, Hinano and Milton, thank you for coming all the way out to the west side from the humble Waialua. It's such a beautiful community.
Thank you.
And to hear your heart and your voice, and to know that there are good leaders out there on ground zero that care for everyone. That's what I got today. And so thank you. Continue to do God's good work. And we are here. We are here to do what we need to do and what God allows us to do for all the communities that were affected by this. You know that. I know we'll be in communication outside of here, but what would you like Waialua to know? Is there one thing that you could say to all these people? Could you close us out?
Me or my husband? I'll give him that honor since it's his hometown.
Yeah.
I just want Waialua to know that there's hope in all of this. Don't lose hope.
Amen.
Because although there's a lot of people doing what they're doing, God is still in ultimate control. And like she said, we pray for God's will every day, not just for where He wants us, but for the community as a whole. We have a strong community, tight-knit community, but I know a lot of them don't know Jesus. A lot of them do, but just want them to know that there's hope. There's hope because God is alive. There's hope. He is hope.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.